Our story starts with Luna scanning through the Ascension network. As it shows her the past, there a younger Luna is terrified and scared. We then transition to Luna's sister Alpha, who is riding her bike. As she rides to the city, suddenly an explosion happens. After this, her bike stalls out. She lifts her head up and sees a figure donning a black coat, aiming a colossal cannon directly at her. The only thing discernible was a glowing blue eye. The girl in black then fires another shot at Alpha, who swiftly draws her blade and cleaves it. The girl in black then proceeds to draw her blade against her. As the two of them clash blade to blade, Alpha then asks her, "Who is she?" The battle drags on for quite a while. The two have their duel interrupted by hetero creatures. The girl in black, after blasting a hetero creature to smithereens, proceeds to fire at the hetero creatures behind Alpha, and then ask her if she would lend a hand to deal with the immediate threat. As the two proceed to wipe out the hetero creatures. Black Rock Shooter. That's the name of the girl in black. She then proceeds to tell Alpha that she smelled like one of them, and that's the reason she attacked. BRS then proceeds to ask Alpha if she remembered how she got there, before pointing at the castle in the distance. It seems that Alpha somehow ended up in this world while searching for a clue to sever Luna's deep connection with the Ascension network. BRS tells us this world that Alpha finds herself in is called Corridor. However, Alpha is skeptical and not ready to buy into this whole story yet. He then proceeds to pick up her bike and proceeds to question BRS. According to BRS, Corridor consists of mental images, and strong mental images can affect the state or properties of matter. She then tells Alpha that the world has taken the current form because she is there. BRS continues, explaining that this place is a physical manifestation of the mind. Alpha looks down and notices that the hetero creatures they had slain dissolved into light. BRS explains that when mental images perish, it returns to the corridor as energy to sustain the world's operation. BRS then redons her hood and gestures for Alpha to follow her. Alpha questions why she should, and then BRS tells her that she isn't good at explaining, but someone else can help her. That and Alpha's bike needs fixing. Once Alpha has left the ruined city where she was hiding, does she truly understand the validity of BRS's previous words? Alpha, who has been avoiding Babylonia surveillance this entire time, has become quite familiar with the city. However, beyond that, she barely recognizes anything. BRS explains to Alpha that the range of a mental image is only so vast, and that the castle is also a mental image formed by someone. Alpha then notices that she doesn't feel annoyed talking to BRS, and she knows that she has never felt this way about anyone. If anything, she feels like this girl is one of her own kind, a solitary being. The scene then changes, and BRS tells Alpha that there they are. The place resembles a mountain ruin, where a workshop-like building stands. She then proceeds to tell Alpha that they are at one of the craftsman's workshops, and explains that the craftsman is a doctor and a mechanic, so nobody attacks this place. The girls then proceed to enter the workshop and see a cloaked figure, who greets BRS, taking note of Alpha as well. She then asks BRS if Deadmaster knows, knowing that BRS doesn't want her to be seen hanging out with people that Deadmaster doesn't know. BRS then completely ignores Craftsman and tells Alpha to direct any questions towards her, and proceeds to leave. The Craftsman then proceeds to tell Alpha that she'll do her best to help her since BRS brought her there. However, that sets Alpha on edge, as she never introduced herself and BRS never introduced her either. The Craftsman then explains that this is because she knows everything about Corridor, and then she proceeds to address Alpha's concerns with this place, asking her if she's trying to treat this like a dream. Alpha then notes that she has a strange sense of deja vu around this mysterious figure. However, the aura and the way the Craftsman speaks is totally different from the person she knows. Craftsman then tells her that they should quickly get through this Q&A session, as Alpha seems to have more pressing matters to deal with at the moment. Alpha begins to ask questions, and then quickly finds out that the castle, which only appeared around a month earlier, was created from the Ascension network, which filters the wills of the world that would receive a physical form. With this, the punishing virus was brought over to Corridor. Turns out that the Ascension Network used Luna's will to bring her to that world. Craftsman then asks Alpha what she plans to do, which Alpha responds that the castle is where it all began, and everything will be crystal clear when she gets there. Alpha then flips the kickstand on the motorcycle down and tells Craftsman to fix it, and that she will be back to check on it later. BRS and Alpha then meet up once Alpha has left with the Craftsman, and tells BRS that she needs an additional source of intel about the castle. BRS then gives Alpha a map, and Alpha plans to go speak with a local. The scene then shifts, and we find Lucia trying to protect the Commandant from none other than Dead Master. You note that Dead Master sounds more like a nickname than a real name, which she quickly shrugs off. She then asks them if they comprehend the current situation. Dead Master then tells you two that she only greeted them with a fight first, because it's kind of a rule around there, to greet people with a fight first. She then explains a third time that Lucia and you need to make your way to the castle, to stop the Ascension Network. Dead Master then disappears, and Lucia asks you what the plan is. You then tell Lucia that the plan is obvious. Make your way to the castle and confront the threat at the castle. We find Alpha fighting against the corrupted before she saves someone from a figure dressed in white. She then confronts the girl in black that she saved, who asks if she was going to kill her. Alpha tells her that she isn't, but stand up before she does. The girl in black then introduces herself as Fida. Alpha then proceeds to tell Fida that she only wants to ask a few questions. Alpha asks her if the white robe people who attacked her are from the castle. Fida, while not sure, tells her that they appeared after the castle showed up. Fida then tells Alpha how the inhabitants live in this world, caught in a perpetual cycle of conflict. Alpha then asks Fida to answer her most important question, that being, how much does she know about the castle? Fida says that she can tell her, but she needs to make a trip to the village first, quickly angering Alpha. Alpha, who resists the urge to draw her blade, then asks how the mental images band together if they're always bound to fight. Fida tells her that at first they couldn't. However, they started to band together and form settlements, and that the settlements would wage wars against one another. Alpha then tells Fida that she'll be coming with her to the village, much to the dismay of Fida. The scene then changes to a castle, with red specks floating beneath the clouds, weaving in an endless ribbon. The scene then changes again to the deepest part of the castle, with pristine and secluded chamber, containing nothing but a throne at its center. There is a woman who sits on the throne, only known as King. Red particles drift inside the room and then take the shape of white mental images. The white figures kneel before a king, whose plan is to destroy the mental images in this world, with corrupted and hetero creatures, and make it impossible for them to be born again. It's then revealed that Dead Master was in the room as well. He then tells King that she has sent two people to the castle, and that they're on their way over. Dead Master questions what King's goal is, and King returns that question with a question, that being, why is Dead Master helping her then? He then responds with, that child will try to stop King, and she'd rather have another fight with her than join her. King, also revealed to be the Ascension Network given form, vows to end the irrationality of the world, citing that it's too barbaric. Dead Master, who isn't really interested in this conquest, tells King that this means nothing to her. King then responds that even she will be filtered by her, the Ascension Network. Alpha finds herself in the village that Fida is a part of. Alpha takes note that the village is seemingly in a bad state, and asks if the white mental images did this. Fida responds with, most likely. Alpha then asks Fida if she's gonna explain the whole situation now, and Fida tells her that not long after the castle appeared, the village organized its most elite mental images to investigate the castle. Of the elite who went, only one came back, and told the village that they stood no chance against the master of the castle. According to the intel, the master of the castle demands that visitors play a game and assemble a faction. Alpha then thinks about the color scheme of the castle, and the fact that the master forces visitors to play a game, reminding Alpha of chess. Alpha then has a flashback to when she was teaching Luna chess, when they were just children. She then stops herself from going down memory lane. Fida then reveals that she was from a second batch of challengers, though she thought it was pointless. Alpha responds with, yeah, that didn't hit you earlier? Fida then reveals that she only went to fulfill the player requirement required for them to be considered a faction. While Alpha ponders the situation, the craftsman then reveals that she too is there. The other mental images in the village then greet Alpha, although Alpha picks up on their hostility and gives them a warning. The craftsman then tells the village mental images to consider Alpha a friend of hers. The villagers agree to tell Fida that they need to organize a third expedition now. Fida then asks if they have lost it, seeing as they'll die. The mental images then tell her that they do not need to fear death. It is part of the life in Corridor, and part of their calling. They then ask Fida if she has forgotten Melika's teachings. Fida, having enough of it, tells them that she's not going. However, before she has a chance to leave, Alpha stops her. Just then, someone appears from a ribbon of white light overhead and lands on the ground. Fida, who moves towards the sleeping figure, kneels next to her. Fida then reveals that this is Corridor birthing new life. Alpha notes that it's strange, seeing as hundreds have been massacred by the castle. Alpha then asks the craftsman if it's interference from the Ascension Network. He explains to Alpha, although begrudgingly, that she is correct. He reveals that the mental images killed by the creations of the castle can't return as normal, and instead end up working for the castle. Fida then hands the mental image over to the villagers, and tells them that she'll go, and that the others should train the new mental image. She then tells Alpha that she'll be joining her on that journey to the castle. Alpha asks the craftsman if she'll be joining as well, which she responds to with yes, she will. Naturally, Alpha inquires about her bike, right before BRS pulls up on it. We have a flashback to when Fida first awakened and met Melika. The scene then changes to her kneeling on the ground, exhausted and ready to collapse. Fida then calls out to Melika. Melika praises Fida for a job well done as a mountain of mental images corpses start to disappear. Returning to Corridor, Fida, concerned over the death of some comrades, is told by Melika that it's something that all mental images must experience. Then, Fida asks Melika if she can at least say goodbye to them. Melika grants her request. The scene changes to Fida and Melika having a conversation about none other than Blackrock Shooter, as Melika is telling of BRS's other names, such as the Wandering Calamity, or the Demon of Darkness. The two of them then discuss the upcoming fight with BRS, something that has Fida on edge. The craftsman has told them that only once BRS has been defeated, the Corridor can move on to the next era. Fida then contemplates the meaning of conflicts they find themselves in. Of course, like any master-student relationship, Fida thinks Melika is wrong about one thing. BRS is less like a demon and more like the Grim Reaper, taking all the lives of those who oppose her. In the conflict, BRS has broken through the lines of opponents before confronting Melika and Fida. BRS looks at Fida, who then makes the split-second decision to take Melika and flee. We then return to the present, where we find Alpha and Fida, specifically Alpha telling Fida to stop clinging to her. The craftsman then elaborates, telling Alpha that Fida is scared of BRS, mainly due to the fact that BRS is sort of like a final boss to the mental images, having killed tens of thousands of them in her time. Alpha then takes the time to gather her thoughts before noticing that BRS has stopped moving. BRS then addresses Fida, telling her not to worry, though they are still enemies. She then proceeds to ask Fida if she will take revenge, telling her to do it. Alpha then interrupts, asking why BRS is going to the castle, if it has nothing to do with her. BRS tells her nothing really, stating that it in fact doesn't have anything to do with her, and that's just how her life has always been. Fida then asks Alpha why she's listening to BRS. He's just spouting nonsense. Alpha just tells her to shut it. Alpha then asks why BRS stopped, and she responds with, "It's too quiet." They're nearing in on the castle, and nobody is stopping them. Ahead of the girls lies a gorgeous ruin, and beyond that, the castle. Suddenly, Alpha is attacked, and she narrowly dodges. The mysterious attacker is revealed to be none other than Lucia. Alpha then lowers her Kodachi, having no intention of fighting Lucia. You then address Alpha, asking if she has been dragged into this mess as well. Lucia then asks Alpha what the hell is going on here, and if the Ascension Network has anything to do with it. Alpha, while wishing they weren't involved in this, concludes that they are because of their unique connections with the Ascension Network. Craftsman then comes forward to address them, asking if they're done. It's then that you and Lucia notice how familiar she is. As they deliberate, Craftsman then tells them that they should rest here, while there is still a chance to do so. The group then does introductions. Alpha then asks Lucia if she wants to finish things here once and for all. However, while Lucia and you are not fully on board with what they've heard, they have gathered some intelligence on their end as well, and concluded to set their differences aside to figure a way back. The group then comes to the conclusion that the more people they have, the better, seeing as there is some sort of game that they'll have to play. The group arrives at the castle, where King is waiting for them. Lucia and you then think to yourselves that she looks like Luna, but most certainly is not her. Alpha and BRS then take the chance to attack King, who knows that their attacks are meaningless. She then tells them that this is her domain, and they have to play by her rules. King then says to the players that they have all assembled, and it is time for the game to truly begin, as your consciousness feels like it's falling till you pass out. Lucia finds herself separated from you after regaining consciousness. Under her feet, she finds a Black Knight chess piece. All of the players were given a piece by King, and Lucia ended up being the knight. BRS then appears, seemingly having been teleported with Lucia. She then asks Lucia if anything is familiar. BRS then reveals that she was given the queen piece. The girls then have a small chat about King, with BRS asking Lucia about her, which she then drops upon finding out that is complicated. The girls then take a look at the ceiling, noticing a 3D hologram mirroring the castle's appearance. Near the base of the castle, red dots appear, representing their location. BRS tries to make her way up the stairs, but is slowly stopped by an invisible barrier. They then take notice of the dice, more specifically, the fact that BRS's dice and Lucia's were different, as they represent where they can move based on the chess piece given. We then go to Fida and Craftsman. They take note that Fida has been given a pawn piece, while Craftsman was given the bishop. Then, Craftsman asks Fida why she avoids conflict, with Fida telling her that she does it because she doesn't think it has anything to do with her. She knows that even if a new Fida is born within the corridor, it won't be her, with Craftsman adding on to that, noting how emotions and thoughts would be different as well. Craftsman then asks Fida if she hates conflict so much, why is she here? Which Fida hasn't really gotten a response to. Fida then in turn asks a question, that being why the Craftsman is helping them when she has always remained neutral. Craftsman then tells her that it was just on a whim, of course. That was just a bluff, though, that Fida didn't believe. Craftsman then tells her that the real reason is to see how the kings move. The scene then shifts to you, and the fact that you're strapped to a chair. You're bound with invisible chains, completely unable to move. You find yourself face to face with King. Alpha then shows up and calls the king a coward, stating that she would expect someone to make a move when they don't know the rules. King then states that she's better than that, stating that this human can connect to an agent, and she wants to see if she can dig something special out of you. She then says that she'll do her duty as a hostess, and she begins explaining the rules to you. You then take note that it is much like another game, and tell her that you thought it was going to be chess. King then responds with, that would be lame, since it's just computational ability. You then ask Alpha, and she tells you that Luna and her came up with this game together, telling you that she knows the rules. However, her face darkens, and demands King tell her what she's done to Luna. You tell Alpha to calm down, sensing she's about to go on a rampage. King then tells Alpha that Luna was regarded as an anomaly that shouldn't be there, and that agents, who are meant to enact the will of the Ascension Network, and that she is fulfilling the duty that Luna was meant to. Alpha then tells you that you know what to do, and you establish a mind connection with Alpha herself. Before the game begins, you ask why Alpha is here, despite being a piece as well, specifically the Rook. King then tells you that it's because Alpha had already destroyed the Rook on her side, so she eliminated the Rooks to keep it fair. King then begins by telling you that she'll show you how it's done, before rolling the die for her queen. Specks of light on the holographic castle start moving, indicating the start of the game. Lucia and BRS note the king has made her first move. BRS then tells Lucia to get ready because something is coming. From the other side of the door, Dead Master walks into the room. Dead Master then greets the girls, BRS noting that of course she would be there. It's then that Lucia asks if they know each other, and Dead Master responds with they are fated rivals. Lucia asks if she's not just some mental image, then why would she side with King? Which she responds with by telling Lucia that whatever side BRS chooses, he'll choose the opposite. Lucia notes that even from the first moment you met Dead Master, that she just does whatever she wants, something that BRS agrees with. Then the girls see that you have rolled an 11, and start having BRS move into place. Afterwards, Lucia also gets to move into place. The girls fight enemies along the way, on the spots that they land on. BRS's spot also happens to be contaminated by the red tide. They take note that the spaces land on have environmental-like properties. The girls then run to one of the king's pieces, before engaging in a fight with her. On the other hand, Craftsman and Fida take note that they have yet to move. Craftsman then tells Fida that it's contradicting, that the pieces get to decide where to go when the player is controlling the pieces. Craftsman then begins telling her that some of the pieces will have to be sacrificed. Just then, Craftsman's dice shows a 6, and she begins explaining to Fida that if you want to win, that eliminating the enemy is more important than reaching the end. Fida then asks Craftsman if she's okay with being sacrificed, since they have no clue what happens when they die in the game. Craftsman then tells her that the reason that no mental images have been able to beat the king in this game, because it goes against the mental images of philosophy. After that, Fida gets overwhelmed by the continuing conversation of sacrifice, before Craftsman tells her not to take it to heart. And then they separate. Fida then notes that her king, that being you, hasn't excluded her, and she begins to move where you instructed. We then move back to the two kings, where King herself is telling you that she is sacrificing one of the bishop's dice for decisions. You then take note of the positions of the players on the board. You note that there is a blockade of white pieces, and that if you don't do something soon, you'll be defeated. King, seemingly impatient, asks you what's wrong before you respond by telling her that we've got time. Of course, this is just a tactic to wear down her patience. King then taunts you, telling you that this is a waste of time and the two of you go back and forth, with her so-called reason for this being that she's trying to show you a way out. Naturally, you reject her offer to surrender. Alpha then talks to you through your mind connection, telling you that you're going to lose, and tells you that you have quite the poker face, despite being quite scared. You take note of your hand under the table that is covered in sweat. You glance back at King and notice her indifference to the game before Alpha tells you to calm down. You then start taking notes of the way the game is played, moves that you can make to win, and things that can happen on the game board. Alpha tells you that you know what really matters here. You then rid your mind of thoughts and bring yourself back down before looking King in the eye once again. You proceed to tell King there would be no harm in a small chat, and she asks if that's how you sweet talk Luna. You then tell her that communication can solve many issues. However, King says that it's only based on if there is good intentions, and that if the world had any goodwill toward her, none of them would be here right now. Alpha then chimes in, stating that King doesn't know Luna at all. King retorts by asking Alpha if she really knows her. You then chime in, asking if she is truly fulfilling her own will. Then why does she keep bringing up Luna? And why does she look like her as well? You then ask if she is really just a puppet, acting on behalf of Luna. This is enough to anger King before she quickly calms down, saying this is all some plan just to upset her. Alpha then notes that the real Ascension Network wouldn't be this emotional. King then asks them if they think she's a fake, but Alpha says no, but she doesn't think she's anything special, calling her a coward hiding in a toy house, and really only wanting to play house with people. King then asks if that means that she should eliminate everything here then, asking Alpha if that would make her happy. She then begins asking who really lacks compassion for the weak, us, who crave conflict, or her, who desires peace. Of course, you don't actually think she is pursuing peace. She then says that it's us who perceive her as the enemy, asking why this can't just be a match between friends, which you beg to differ. King then asks how you can coexist peacefully with Alpha, when we are technically enemies, citing that if it's what we truly believed, then why didn't we cut each other down the moment we met? Alpha then tells her that these are just childish attempts to sow discord between them. You then ask King what her real goal is, and she tells you that she wishes to filter the malice of the world, to get rid of it all. Alpha just tells her that all that's doing is taking away our right to choose. King then tells us that this game is the second chance for sinners, hoping they'll realize how meaningless conflicts really are. However, if we have a better way, then she's all ears. Alpha is the first to chime in, saying of course there is, saying how she's not afraid to face her problems head on, before casually activating her powers and aiming her sword at King, who just asks if she really wants to do that. King then cites that Alpha rejected being an agent, to avoid a dog-eat-dog world, but even with new options for filtering, she still stands against it. She interrupts by noting that it is now our turn, and the round count heads to 14. Inside our mind connection with Alpha, we ask if she's figured anything out, and Alpha says that for certain she's not Luna, or the Ascension Network. We then continue by saying that we should keep playing the game, at least for now. After all, quitting halfway through isn't our style, or Alpha's. The scene starts with BRS and Deadmaster clashing. Deadmaster tells BRS she is truly a worthy opponent. One of the dice around Deadmaster flies away from her, and goes to BRS, proving BRS has won the round. We find out that the round count has reached 28, and it's our turn to move. However, Deadmaster tells BRS that while she's in the lead right now, to look at the castle, where she knows that Lucia's knight is under attack by 2 white pieces. And Fida, well, BRS didn't think she'd be helpful anyway. Deadmaster then tells BRS that our fates are sealed, even if we reach the goal last. Deadmaster then tells her to not stop looking at her, since she's the one enemy she can't escape. We then moved on to Fida, asking herself what she should do. She then notes how she should have just left since she's the coward. We then see a flashback to her time with Malaka, where she asks Malaka why they had to be enemies with her, asking them what they're really fighting for. She then tells Malaka what she saw that day, when they fought BRS, telling her how she saw herself. She goes on to tell her that she is not afraid of BRS, but of herself. Malaka then tells her that they can't stay that way forever, because they aren't perfect, telling her of the previous Fida. And then tells her that Fida doubting her sincerity made her a bit sad. We then go back to the present Fida, where she is asking them what meaning there would be in that. She then notices Lucia is being flanked by white pieces, whittling her down her dice. Lucia, who just defeated a white pawn, then attacks a knight encased in ice. However, the wear and tear from the battle is taking its toll, and her frame fails. The knight then breaks free and attacks Lucia. Fida, who watches this happen, starts pounding on the barrier, separating her from Lucia. It's then that Fida is able to tell who the White Knight really is, before a memory plays out, when Malaka departed for the castle. The scene then shifts to Malaka, losing the game to King, before asking what punishment awaits. King asks her why there would be such a thing. She's just using this as a means, not an end. Malaka then tells her that their meaning isn't for her to decide, before King offers up her hand and shows Malaka another world, where everything has ceased. We then return to the present, with Fida demanding to know why Malaka is there, as a white knight, before Malaka leaves. Lucia knows that things have taken a turn for the worse. Fida asks Lucia why she isn't stopping, but Lucia just says that she still has to make it to us, that she can still be of use. Fida asks Lucia why she's willing to sacrifice herself for us, but this just makes Lucia angry. And then she states that it isn't a sacrifice. Lucia then tells Fida just how much she's been through with us, and despite everything, she knows that you would never ask her to sacrifice herself. She then tells Fida that she has trust in us and our decisions. We go over to BRS, who is near the finish line with Deadmaster, right behind her. She then notes that the real test is not yet here, seeing is that she will have to face Deadmaster and the White Knight by herself. Her dice then shows a 6, as she moves into her spot. Just one short of the finish line, she triggers an event, with the card revealing the crossed black swords, signifying a battle. She then is transported to a wasteland for a battlefield, with countless enemies closing in on her. She engages the enemies before her, losing track of how long the fight has gone on. It begins to annoy her. Then, her sword parried out of her hands is knocked away as a different one heads at her, intent on finishing her off. However, Deadmaster parries away the would-be blow to BRS, Deadmaster then says that she has found BRS, before asking where this is, then noting that it really doesn't matter. BRS then asks why she would help her, which Deadmaster explains that it should be obvious, saying that nobody but her can take her down. The girls then team up, ready for the fight ahead. The battle finally ends, and a golden dice appears before BRS, though it disappears when she reaches for it. Behind her, Deadmaster tells her that she's finally caught up, before BRS just smiles, thinking of the past. The scene then flashbacks to when they defeated all the mental images on the battlefield, with Deadmaster telling BRS that she intends on settling all her grievances with the girl. BRS then says that she has a question before they begin, asking what they are to each other. Deadmaster, caught off guard by the question, wonders how to define it when BRS asks if they are friends. Deadmaster then says that it's more than that. They're best friends. BRS then asks if they're enemies, and Deadmaster agrees. He then asks BRS why all the questions, who says it's to regain a bit of strength back. Back to the present, BRS notes how Deadmaster is more cunning than her, before asking if they can hold off on fighting for 10 minutes, with Deadmaster telling her there's no way. The girls clash, but in the end, Deadmaster is victorious, as BRS starts to disintegrate into white light, proof that she is lost. Deadmaster then tells her that it's over for her. However, BRS says that it'll never be over, noting how they are arch enemies. As she disappears, Deadmaster says that's right. After all, BRS wouldn't just let it end like this. The scene changes back to you, watching as the symbols for your queen and knight dim. King then asks if you plan to surrender, however, you still deny her. She then asks if you're relying on your pawn. However, you tell her that her name is Fida. King then asks you why you are so desperate to win. She then lists off a number of reasons you could have been driven to defeat her, or perhaps your competitive spirit. However, you just say there are many reasons why. She then says this game won't satisfy any of those. She then notes that we're trying to find a way back to our world through her, and you confirm, saying that's just one of them. She then notes the scenario you find yourself in, akin to someone being in the Demon King's castle, and a villain with seemingly evil intentions, and the world on the brink of destruction. She then continues that no matter how outlandish, you always find a way out, and says that this is a principle of contradiction at work. And in our imagination, her defeat would solve all contradictions. You then ask if she's ever considered being a novelist. However, she isn't one for those stories. She then goes on to say that it was never possible for us to return, that this fight is pointless. She then notices that you aren't even phased. After all, why would you be? Alpha then chimes in, noting how Corridor is a mirror. King then asks if Craftsman told you that. You then ask if Alpha knew this from the beginning, however, she denies. King then calls Alpha cunning, noting how all this would have been over if she came clean earlier. She then continues that none of us came from the original world, and that we've been here from the start. King then notes how Corridor reflects the mental image, then likening it to a shadow in a mirror, one that can never step outside. King then asks if she wants us to reveal what will happen once the game is over, before stating that nothing will. We then ask Alpha if her purpose was to return. She in turn asks if we are blaming her for not telling the truth. We then follow up by saying she could have been honest. It wouldn't have changed anything. Alpha then sighs and asks if it would have influenced our actions at all. You respond that it would have affected how you feel about them. Alpha just smiles and lets out a chuckle, before turning to King and telling her that contradictions do exist. Alpha says that the contradictions exist between her and King. King is unfazed, however, and asks Alpha why, who then tells her that Craftsman says our presence is an error. She then notes how Corridor was never supposed to reflect them, so something else is acting as the medium. Alpha and you come to the conclusion that a shard of Luna's consciousness has come here, to Corridor. Alpha then states that it needs to return to where it belongs. She continues by stating that King is just Luna's reflected shadow, not the Ascension Network itself, and that if she truly understands, she should know what side to pick. Alpha then notes that King removed Alpha from the game to ensure that BRS would fall in battle. Alpha then continues, citing how she forced you into a dilemma, knowing we wouldn't let go of someone we've barely known for a day. Alpha then asks if this is her idea of a game, a meticulously planned murder. King states that her goal is to create a world without conflict. wherever BRS goes, conflict ensues, which is incompatible with King's peace. Alpha then asks her, where does this peace come from? And King asks her if she understands. She says the conflict lies in mutual hatred, which leads to mutual destruction. She then follows up by saying that we are both victims of malice, so why can't we comprehend her simple wish? She continues that if she could remain in this world that she reshaped, she'd never suffer again. And as her sister, isn't this what Alpha wanted? She then turns to us, asking if we are tired of saving Earth again and again, asking if we want to see an end to the constant crises. She offers a future, one free from our burdens, a paradise, before extending her hand. All she needs to create the perfect Eden, free of conflict, is the sacrifice of one girl. You note that it'd be so easy, but you refuse. She asks if we have made up our mind, if we truly comprehend the situation. She continues by saying that there is no other way. All she would have to do is eliminate one girl, and everything would be fine. And yet, we would choose to be her enemy? You comment by saying this just like Alpha said, that you're a fool. But you're one who truly does what he believes is right. Alpha goes on to say the King really is just a coward, who refuses to confront others. King then asks if Alpha is going to deny her own sister's hopes, telling her what awaits Luna outside of here. However, Alpha goes on to say that she won't let Luna stay in a prison made by herself. King then notes what you can really do at this point of the game, before you gesture to the golden dice acquired by BRS. Alpha then goes on to say that she understands her intentions on keeping her out of the game. She continues that as much as she wants to, she can't always protect Luna. King loses control and disappears, before the golden dice floats before Alpha and lights up the rook on the scoreboard. We then shift over to Fida, who is walking around the final corridor. At the end is a massive door, behind which is the end of the chessboard. In front of the door is Malaka, who greets Fida upon her getting closer. Fida then asks her what's going on, and she simply replies with, he needs to stop Fida right here. Fida tells her that she has so many questions for her still, but Malaka says she can no longer answer them. She then tells Fida to draw her sword, telling her that she can't run away this time. We then shift back to Alpha, who knows the chessboard is quite fragile. He then encounters the enforcers of sorts, who say that violating the rules is unforgivable, only for Alpha to do as Alpha does and destroy them. Alpha then encounters Fida and Malaka, with Fida having been defeated by the latter. Fida asking if this is the part where she's supposed to get stronger, and Malaka notes that she hasn't changed a bit, before Alpha walks in and tells Fida to stand up, that she has to defeat Malaka. The girls then team up, with Alpha stopping Malaka with a sword wave, before Fida lands the finishing blow. Malaka tells Fida that she has a wonderful smile. Fida then touches her face, and finds that she is indeed smiling. She doesn't know why though, since smiles should be reserved for moments of joy, yet she only feels a void. Alpha then tells her that it's time to go, before grabbing her cloak and trying to drag her to the door. Fida tells her to wait, since she's trying to catch her breath. Fida then asks why Alpha is there, and Alpha explains that the rook can add its point to an ally's by consuming one of its own dice. Fida tells her that it feels like a rule that she made up 5 minutes ago, and then gives her own thoughts. Fida, still being dragged, asks if one of them is supposed to say something profound to elevate themselves. Alpha then asks what she wants to say, and Fida is unsure. She then says that everything is different than what she expected. She then goes on to say that she doesn't even know if anything about her has changed. Alpha then goes on to tell her that a pawn is promoted when it reaches the end of the board, and goes on to say that it isn't the pawn itself changing, but the player replacing the pawn, putting another piece in its place. She then offers insight to Fida, telling her that moving forward may not change anything, but running away, do they truly change nothing? She continues by telling Fida that the journey is still long, so take her time, and hurry up and open the door. Fida then finishes by saying that BRS is going to owe her one, and that once the door is open, and BRS is revealed, she says that she promises her, as she looks toward her longtime nemesis who sits on the throne, looking down at her. She then tells Deadmaster that with this battle, they finish this. The two eternal rivals then clash, exchanging blows back and forth, both trying to overpower the other. When BRS attacks, Deadmaster counters, and when Deadmaster attacks, BRS counters that. The fight lasts for who knows how long. However, as the fight drags on, Deadmaster, using chains, jumps into the air and throws a castle wall at BRS, who is nearly able to escape. The two continue their fight, before, through the countless cannon shots, Deadmaster gets close to attack, only for BRS to parry the attack, causing her to stumble backwards, ready to fall into the nothingness. That is before Blackrock Shooter catches her and pulls her into her embrace, with Deadmaster finally accepting her defeat. Deadmaster's domain then gradually collapses, and she asks BRS if it's time that she lets go. However, BRS just smiles and says that it's a bit nostalgic. With this, a victor has been decided. The players, all of them, you and the king included, appear in the domain as well. Lucia then addresses you before you ask if she is alright. She then responds with just being distracted for a moment. The players, who are a bit confused, ask if they won or not, with Alpha asking King what she plans to do. You then tell King that she is lost, and she asks if it feels exhilarating. She then notes that you will never change, saying how this would be the perfect time for the chapter to end, if there was more space. She then states that maybe it should end, before summoning a Crimson Rapier. It makes her move towards you. As the rapier rapidly approaches you, you catch a glimpse of Crimson Lightning. Alpha raises her sword in defense. However, King doesn't dodge or deflect Alpha. Instead, she allows Alpha to pierce her with the sword. She then pulls herself closer to Alpha, and a glow emanates from Alpha's hand, signaling her use of her dormant punishing virus. Finally, it becomes a red storm that encases both of them. Alpha sees a little girl in the distance, picking up scattered chess pieces and resetting them. This little girl is none other than a child version of Luna. She then kneels down and tells Luna it's time to go. Luna asks if Alpha will come with her. However, Alpha declines. Alpha tells Luna that she's gonna have to go home on her own, but she promises that when she gets there, Alpha will be waiting. Luna then proceeds to walk away. As she fades away, King asks if Alpha is satisfied now, with the malice gone. Alpha says that see you later, as the punishing energy within calms down. She then faces you and the others. Lucia then asks what the next move is. BRS and Deadmaster tells them that even though the creator of the castle is gone, her influence is still here, referring to us. BRS then raises her sword towards Alpha, and Lucia readies her sword. You then tell Lucia that to mental images, we will be the enemy. Lucia says that while we are heirs in the world, a world that only tolerates correctness is the true biggest error. BRS asks us how we will prove it, before Lucia and Alpha tell her. With the most direct and simplest method, Deadmaster then joins BRS in a fight against Alpha and Lucia. Vita asks if you are going to stop them, and you just tell her that she could join them if she felt like it. We then see Alpha and Lucia fighting BRS and Deadmaster together. Going back to the craftsman's workshop, it's nighttime, and a shadowy figure appears behind her. The figure then asks the craftsman what she's doing, and she replies with just watching the stars. The figure then asks if she's really doing it with such a primitive tool. Craftsman then tells her that it's a simple but fascinating tool. The figure then asks if they have reached the end, and Craftsman just replies with, how do we define beginning and end? Craftsman then asks the figure the names of certain constellations, and the figure names them. Craftsman laughs and calls it amusing. The figure knows that it seems like Craftsman likes this planet, and Craftsman compares it to a gacha machine, where even if you know what's inside, you still look forward to what the next shake will bring. The figure then says that her drifting this far is somewhat of a miracle, and Craftsman agrees, but knows that it has increased her workload. The figure then asks Craftsman if she would like her to help fix these minor errors. Craftsman says that she has most of it figured out, and she's gonna leave them as they are for now. Over in Babylonia, a blue-haired construct named Lesty wakes up, and is greeted by Ishmael. Lesty knows that it's fine, and Ishmael adds on by saying that there were no abnormalities, and the risk of safety hazards is negligible. She then continues and says that control court's work is basically done, and that given the precedent set by Hamlet, the document approval will be quick. She then turns to a girl named Leonie, and asks about her opinion. However, Leonie was lost in thought and didn't hear her. Leslie then tells her that to set this aside for a moment and goes over Leonie's proposals. Leslie then continues to reprimand her, stating how her applications overflow the Science Council and Engineering Force, causing them to file multiple complaints. She continues further by saying that unrelated to this review, she suggests that Leonie considers the feasibility next time she writes an application. Leonie then tells Leslie that she sounds like one of the old bags on the council, saying no to everything interesting. Ishmael interrupts before Leslie goes off the rails at Leonie, citing that she was quite the maverick during her time in the Science Council. Just then, Asimov appears, asking him what they're doing there. Leslie then asks if Asimov got the memo, saying they're just reviewing an inspection request on the subsequent models of Hamlet theater machines. Asimov then states that it would be good if the Association of Art took over the machine. After a brief complaint from Leonie, Asimov tells the control core to be more mindful before leaving. Getting back on track, Ishmael and Leslie continue to question Leonie, asking if they plan to commercialize it. Leonie then confirms it, and says that the prototype has been used by Isla already. Leslie says that overall it's good and the level of immersion is far superior to other virtual reality machines. Leslie notes that it's less like being in a machine and more like being in a dream. Ishmael notes that this won't cause any adverse side effects for the user, and a specific method of technological implementation isn't part of their jurisdiction. Leonie then says that her only requirement is that it doesn't trigger epilepsy. Leslie then says that they should have the Grey Raven command it try it out, seeing as he'll have the most experience in the matter. Over to you and Lucia. Lucia tells you that you should both meet up with Liv and Lee in a few minutes. Lucia then asks if you are fine, and you just tell her that you are fine. You take note that today is just an ordinary day, nothing out of the usual, while on a routine patrol around the clean zone. For a moment, the light refracts throughout the glass, and you see a flash of a dark blue flame. But everything quickly goes back to normal. You then tell Lucia that you think you had a dream, and that she asks if you felt that way as well. You both note that it had only been a couple minutes since you separated from Lee and Liv, and that small moment seemed to go on forever. Lucia then says it would be nice if the clean zone stays stable, and you agree. A girl in black then comments on the battle before finally disappearing. I want to thank everyone who watched the video. It means a lot to me since I spent countless hours trying to make it as close to perfect as I could, and I hope I captured the story in a way that you all enjoyed. So, if you liked the video, please consider hitting that like and subscribe as it really helps my channel out. I have a Discord where we talk all kinds of nonsense about PGR and Wuthering Waves, and other games as well. I stream over at twitch.tv/Mixels, and with that everyone, take care and I'll see you on the next one.